Hello and welcome to my talk about interactive auditory mediated reality towards user-defined personal soundscapes. I did this work with my colleagues Evgeny Stemasov, Rietzler and Enrico Rukzio from Ulm University. So to begin, sound and hearing are very important parts of our life. A lot of the information that we acquire from our environment is from sound, such as the movement of vehicles and other road users. And most of us like to listen to music for the aesthetic qualities. And also oftentimes sounds can be enjoyed as a part of a specific experience, such as a walk on the beach. Sounds also have a lot of impact on ourselves. So it has physiological effects. So sudden sounds can increase our heart rate because omnidirectional hearing is our warning sense and used to recognize danger. There are also psychological effects, like affecting our mood. Think of music, for example. Sounds can also have cognitive effects, like voices that are distracting us and making it harder to concentrate. Last but not least, sounds affect our behavior. So we may move away from noises, and permanent noises can cause stress. So it would be nice to have some sort of control over our hearing, right? In reality, we already interact with a lot of virtual and physical sounds, such as digital notification sounds by computers and mobile devices, or listening to music by making use of specific headphones that block out environmental sounds. Hearing aids are also getting smarter and provide some form of interactivity. So what we want to introduce is a concept that enables users to not only add, but interactively mix and balance virtual and physical sounds alike. We named this concept Interactive Auditory Mediated Reality, and you can read more about the approach and definition in our paper. So the research questions that we wanted to answer in this work are: in which ways do users want to alter their surrounding soundscape, and how can an interactive system with such capabilities be designed? As a first step, we conducted a week-long field study in the style of SOUNDWALKs, which is a walk basically with a focus on listening to the environment. Therefore, we implemented an Android application and conducted an event sampling study with 12 participants. They were instructed and encouraged to note sounds that they would like to alter via persistent notification, and clicking it opened the dialog that you can see on the right to record and rate those sounds. After this week, semi-structured interviews aimed to further explore the concept of interacting with the surrounding soundscape and find possible usage scenarios. During this week, we collected 225 samples of different sounds. More details, such as a classification of them, can be found in the paper. But the main takeaway for us was that a large amount of sources was made quieter without fully removing them from the soundscape. So, if given the chance to change the volume of any sound source, users mostly reduce, mute, but rarely increase the level of the sound. So this provides an opportunity for simplification of interfaces, as continuous volume control may be reduced to just a few states, such as muting, unaltered, louder, and probably a level between muted and unaltered. So this retains the completeness of the soundscape, but respects users' desire for silence and acoustical comfort. The interviews revealed 5 themes. I'm going to explain 2 of them in more detail. So first are dynamic requirements. Besides a changing of the soundscape, also user requirements may change depending on the mood or the context of the user. So a sound can be irrelevant and distracting in one point of time, but very important in another point in time, such as traffic noises. Therefore, an automated suppression of sounds is to be avoided. Future devices may accommodate for some of these changes, but not necessarily all. The second point I want to talk about is agency over perception. So a device that automatically alter and mediate the perception was met with skepticism. While headphones are also an alteration of hearing, this alteration is deliberate and conscious. So mediating in a subjective or destructive way is a delicate topic. In the second study, participants should actually interact with the system and be able to perceive the effects of it. So this was also considered to yield valuable feedback concerning the overarching concept and vision, independently of the specific implementation that we choose. So at the moment, there is no technology available that is able to perfectly separate various sound sources so that they can be controlled individually. Therefore, we used a virtual environment to test the concept. Participants were sitting in a virtual living room inside a house with various sound sources around them. Based on the results of the first study, we compared a continuous interaction paradigm to a simplified discrete set of interactions. As a second variable, we aimed to cover two extremes in terms of modality. So a screen-based system which is close to visual only as a tablet-style UI, and in comparison to that, an audio-only system without a visual interface, but based on head rotation. So the user had to look at an object that he identified as the sound source and used his head rotation to control the level. Both modalities used an activation gesture, such as raising the tablet or putting a hand at the right ear. We used the within subject design, and the 12 participants were given 5 minutes in each condition to configure the soundscape to their liking, while discovering the method. Additionally, they were encouraged to think aloud. Due to time constraints, I cannot go into much detail, but what we found is that a reduction of alteration complexity is not only accepted by users, but also preferred and considered more appropriate. This was found to be independent of modality, as it is based on the interaction between human and soundscape, and less on the interaction between human and device. The second big takeaway was that audio-only systems, despite their theoretical advantages, are hard to develop as they are not as established. To get them right, they require many iterations and thorough testing. The concept of a natural and rather subtle mapping of looking at things and interacting with head gestures was accepted and understood by all participants, but the performance of both head-tilt conditions were lower when compared to the screen-based interface. So to summarize our findings, we wrote up 6 points that will help designers of such systems develop them. Let me highlight 3 of those implications for design. So first, soundscape understanding precedes soundscape alteration. That means any system aiming to allow users to alter the auditory perception has to support the user in the task of understanding the acoustic environment. This is particularly relevant for the dynamic environments and environments unknown to the users. Apart from filtering sounds alone, systems should provide labeling and other functions to aid the user in understanding the current soundscape and the consequences of the alterations. Second part is spatial interaction versus aggregated interaction. So conceptually, interacting with sound sources in space may help users to segment and understand the soundscape, leveraging spatial and selective hearing. However, this introduces some degree of reliance on visual information. In the case of occluded sound sources or sources without a precise location, spatial interaction may either be inefficient or introduce additional issues. And as a third point, it is also important to consider the granularity of sound sources to be interacted with. One can consider traffic to be a sound source. Alternatively, one can decompose it into its part like cars, pedestrians, and so on. Likewise, it is possible to group sparsely occurring sounds, like voices of different bystanders, into speech as an aggregate. So this work proposed the concept of interactive auditory mediated reality as per-source alteration of volume and presented insights from preliminary studies. With such a system, users could balance informativeness of the soundscape with their own dynamic requirements for acoustical comfort. Thank you very much for listening to my talk, and please see the paper for more details. Have a good day.